Welcome to the Big Change the Film interview series, and my name's Jason Cohen. I personally have lost over 120 pounds, and every week I chat with inspiring individuals who've also lost significant amounts of weight, hear their story, and try and pass along some of that inspiration to others. Including today's guest and myself, the total pounds lost is now up to 11,280 pounds. This week's guest is Ben Hokanson from Zimmerman, Minnesota. Not long ago, Ben was 90 pounds heavier. He would sweat just playing Xbox. He had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and told me that he was headed for heart attack land. He told me that he didn't like the way he looked, he didn't like the way he felt, and he got sick and tired of being heavy. Ben decided he had had enough. He downloaded the MyFitnessPal app, and his life has never been the same since. He's now a competitive Ironman athlete, and we have a great conversation about his journey. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope that you enjoy it. The Big Change the Film podcast and interview series is sponsored by Health IQ, which is an insurance company that helps health-conscious people like runners, cyclists, weightlifters, vegetarians, and vegans get lower rates on their life insurance. I was intrigued when they first reached out to me and shared the company's values and mission. My contact Tim even told me about how the company cares for the well-being of its own employees by providing a gym to work out in at lunch, healthy eating options, and much, much more. Health IQ can save health-conscious people up to 33% because physically active people have a 56% lower risk of heart disease, 20% lower risk of cancer, and a 58% lower risk of diabetes compared to people who are inactive. 56% of Health IQ customers save between 4 and 33%. They have special rates for those who live an active life, and you can get additional savings by submitting your data through apps like Strava or Runkeeper. Health IQ is the official life insurance partner of USA Weightlifting, Roadrunners Club of America, USA Triathlon, and many more. Go to healthiq.com/BCTF to learn more. Again, that's healthiq.com/BCTF, as in Big Change the Film, to learn more, to help support the show, and to see if you qualify. I appreciate what they're doing with their sponsorship, and 100% of it is going towards the production of this project. Thanks again, Health IQ, for the support. I'm here with Ben Hokanson. We got hooked up through the Missing Chins Running Club, and has a great story. And so first off, Ben, thanks for taking the time to chat with me. Maybe we could just start off with where you're from, where you live, and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I live in Zimmerman, Minnesota, and I am a software architect.
Okay,
and
great.
I've lost 90 pounds.
Awesome. Okay. So, you lost 90 pounds. How recent was that? Is that something super recent, a while back?
So we're coming up on like the third anniversary of me doing it. It was almost 3 years ago, the end of February. And I lost the majority of that weight all within 1 year. And I've kind of taken off on being an athlete since then. But that first year was dedicated to losing weight.
Wow. Awesome. Well, and then, was the weight something that you carried for most of your life, or was it something that came on later in life? Okay.
No, yeah. So, I mean, I when I graduated high school, I was probably about the weight I am now, a little bit more actually. But then when I went to college, I've just been heavy all my life, and it kind of gradually ramped up to the point that I was over 300 pounds.
Wow. And you're a tall guy too, is that right?
Yep, that's right.
You're 6'6", is that what I read?
Yep, 6'6".
Wow. And then, what did food look like for you growing up?
I guess my mom was a really good cook growing up. She always would I guess I've never really thought of it, but she would always make a lot of food, and we would always eat a lot of food. It was kind of a thing, like my whole family's overweight, and it was sort of like a competition between me and my sister, looking back of like, you wanted to eat more than the other person, kind of. So that's how I grew up.
Yeah, and don't want to go too far ahead, but I'm curious because I know for some people they're in that situation where everyone around them is big. There's the pressure to eat, and then when you go on the diet, you're kind of the odd man out. What was that like when you started making that transition? And then also, now how does your family look at you? Did they support you? Was it kind of weird?
Yeah, so I mean, it like the trend, like when it was, I didn't really tell anybody when it was going on. When I made the decision to lose weight, I wasn't socializing it. I wasn't putting it on Facebook or anything that I was doing this. I work out of my house, and a lot of people never even saw the process really happening. I just got sick of being heavy, and I didn't want to socialize it because I think in life you have moments where you feel like you've had enough, but you haven't really, right? And so I was afraid to tell anybody about it because I didn't want to fail, right? And so when I did start losing the weight, though, everybody was super supportive. No, it wasn't like pressure everyone was kind of behind me. And in fact, my parents and stuff were up at one of my kids' parties. I remember that spring when I had first started losing weight, and instead of just sitting around the house, we all went to a place that I run, and we all went for a walk. So they were all kind of on board with it. And now that things have progressed to, me doing Ironman and stuff like that, everyone's super supportive. They're all very proud of me. So
That's super good to hear. Now, had you started to try and make attempts at losing weight before? Was it something that had always, you know, been linger there in the back of your head? Like what was that like previous to this actual time?
yeah, I guess I had tried to lose weight before, and it just, I guess I never took it serious. And I wasn't really informed about what I should be doing. I thought maybe, like, I was used to eating a certain way, right? So you replace one meal with like a salad that's drenched in, like ranch, and you're lying to yourself that I'm eating a salad, so I'm going to lose weight.
Right.
And you don't get that momentum that I got when I really was serious about it, when I signed up on MyFitnessPal and started tracking everything that I ate, and was really honest about what I was eating and was weighing all of my food. And once I started doing that, I mean, the weight came off really fast.
Yeah, I think I saw that you said a bag of Doritos might as well have been a single serving in the article. What did your diet, kind of look like
Oh yeah, I
back
mean,
then?
yeah, yeah. So it's funny because I really like football, um, and basically like every Sunday was an excuse to pig out. That I would go and make, like, I would buy the biggest like tray of chicken wings you could find, and fry them and like eat them. That was like my snack, when I was watching football. And I mean, it's crazy. And then just like dunk them in ranch and blue cheese. And to think about how I wasn't, I didn't really limit myself at all. I was eating just really bad food and a lot of it.
Yeah. I think you mentioned you had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I think there was a quote that said something like, "I figured I was headed for heart attack land."
That's right.
Can you give me kind of a picture of health or maybe lack
Yeah,
thereof?
so I was avoiding, prior to me losing weight. Um, I was not only really heavy, but I also chewed tobacco, like crazy. Like if I was awake, I was chewing tobacco. So um, I went to the dentist, and they took my blood pressure, and the look in their eyes, like when they took my blood pressure, they were shocked at how high it was, and they suggested that I go to the doctor like right away because it was bad. And so I had my dentist appointment, and it was really shortly after that I quit chewing tobacco, which then that got my blood pressure like from here to like here. And then losing weight and exercising got it right down to where it should be.
And were you on any medications, or had you not gone
No,
that far?
no, no. I actually was, I think when you're that big and, in that kind I was just lying to myself a lot. I'm just ignore problems and they won't, they'll go away. And so I didn't end up going to the doctor. I knew what my blood pressure was from going to the dentist, and then I went to, at Walmart, you can go take your blood pressure.
Right. Yeah, sure.
So I went and did that to make sure it wasn't like not real, and I was really high, and I just figured quitting. Like I didn't go. I should have probably went and got on medication. I didn't. I quit chewing tobacco, which helped a ton, and then losing all the weight helped the rest of the way. So.
Yeah, and I know you talked about in that article, and you mentioned in the intro what you do for a living. It's a lot of sitting down. It's a lot of at a computer, that kind of thing. That just become the norm for you. Like, is there any? I know exercise, obviously, and we'll get into that, has become a huge part of your life. But previously, were you pretty sedentary? Even
Yeah, no, I would not do very much at all. I remember I'm a big, like, I've hunted my whole life, right? And like I would go before I started losing weight, I'd go out, and I'm kind of an adventurer, right? I want to go out and do things, and I have deer stands that are far away and a really big hike, and it started becoming such a, like, it was I started to think I wasn't going to be able to do it, to get to these far stands anymore, because I'd be so sweaty by the time I got there, and it would take me so long to do it. I was so disgusted with myself that, like, what I had let myself become. Like, I was sitting around. I wasn't athletic in any way. I was like a mile walk in through the woods took me 45 minutes, and I was sweating like a crazy person. Like you had drenched me with tubs of water by the time I got there. So.
And then, were there any frustrations or struggles that you had when you were bigger? Did you have limitations as far as just what you could do? I mean, I know you mentioned, I believe, your father, or just day-to-day life, like things that were hard.
My back was really in bad shape, to the point that, like, I was going to the chiropractor all the time. It would hurt so bad that I remember the one time my kids were like crying because for me to even get to the bathroom, I had to roll off the couch and like crawl because I couldn't stand up because my back hurt so bad because I was so jacked up from being so heavy. And so that was part of it, just being, I couldn't go long distances anywhere. Going upstairs I was like huffing and puffing like crazy, just going up normal stairs. And it was really, like, I remember I used to play games a lot. I don't anymore, but I remember like almost feeling myself sweating playing Xbox. I'm like, how out of shape am I that I'm like sweating sitting here? So
yeah, that's quite a picture. So what happened? Did you have a moment in time that changed things, or did things change over time?
No, yeah, so it's kind of funny. So I was talking to one of my friends on Xbox, and they were talking about using MyFitnessPal because they wanted to gain weight or something. Like, he's one of these weirdos that has to use it to eat more. Like, this is the total opposite problem of what I have. But he told me about it, and I'm like, so I looked at it, and I downloaded it, and I'm just like, you know what? I was sick of how things were. I was sick of feeling like garbage. I was staying up late. I was like sleeping in late. I always felt like crap. And I knew something had to change. So I just downloaded it, created an account on MyFitnessPal, and started tracking what I ate. And I bought a little, like, the cheapest Fitbit you can buy. It's called a Zip. You like put it on your pants. And so I did two things. I started tracking everything I ate, and I started trying to get steps. I started out with 10,000, and then I was liking what I saw, like the results, like the weight was just melting off. And so I upped it to, like, I was trying to get 20,000, and then I got momentum, good momentum, like for once with my health.
And then simultaneously, did you begin to change the things that you're putting in your body, or were you still
Oh yeah, for
okay?
sure, for sure. So I do all the like I am the cook here and I buy all the food. So I just stopped completely buying all of the food that I thought was bad for me, right? Like I haven't made chicken wings for football since then. And I liked to eat a lot of food. I still do. So I changed, like I was reading about things online and ideas, so I'd like buy a head of cabbage and make cabbage steaks, or zucchini is another really good one that you can eat a lot of. And I started eating, lots and lots of a lot of really I changed from being a lot in the middle of the grocery store, like ramen noodles and, mac and cheese and stuff like that, to the edges of the grocery store, right? Like the produce section, lots of fresh produce and then, like egg whites. I changed from eggs to egg whites. I still do that. I eat like egg whites and greens every single day. I have since then because you can eat like an insanely huge plate of it, where it's like kale or mustard greens or whatever, and egg whites for breakfast. And because my cholesterol was bad too, right? So I knew I could do egg whites and not have the issues with eggs. And yeah, I changed a lot of the way I cooked. I've always been the cook, and I used to go through butter. Like I would buy insane amounts of butter. I was putting it in everything, on everything, and we like really. It's super rare that I go through a pound. I mean, we barely use it for anything. I mean, a lot of things have changed about the way I cook, the way I eat, and the food I buy.
And how long did it take until, some of those changes became habits, and maybe also before you started feeling a real difference in how you were feeling from changing the way you're eating and changing, the
Mm,
movement?
it was probably, it was pretty fast. I mean, I've never, it was pretty fast that all happened because once you start tracking what you're eating, it becomes really apparent really fast, like what these calorie dense foods are. Like, yeah, you can have a candy bar or whatever, but you're not eating now for the rest of the day. Like, or you better go walk around for a long time so you can eat something else that'll fill you up. So, and the change happened pretty rapidly, I think, as far as the kinds of food it's evolved over time, right? Like, so I've been doing this for almost 3 years now, and it's changed a lot over time, and you tinker with things and you get better at things. But as far as like the feeling better, it was probably, I don't know, it wasn't, I don't want to say it was like the next day because I don't want to give anyone that impression. It wasn't. It was probably when I was like probably 40 pounds down, and everyone who saw me was noticing how much weight I was losing. And then, like, the steps I was getting, it tires you out, and you just start naturally going to bed earlier and waking up earlier. And it was then that I was like really kind of internalizing how much better I felt about myself, and just like the energy that I had.
Yeah, it's amazing how those one or two small things can begin to quickly affect every single aspect, and then the whole of everything gets better, even though you're in reality like not really making that big of adjustments, but really the effects are huge.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. It sounded like you said that people started asking your wife if you were sick,
Yeah.
and then you had a nurse that had to double check to make sure the scale wasn't broken.
Yep.
So, what was that like? Once you started hearing that, once people stopped recognizing you, you had to start reintroducing yourself.
Yeah, it's funny because, I work out of my house, and a lot of people don't see me a lot. So what happened was, like I started I'm a really active football parent. My oldest son is in football, so a lot of people in town know me as my son's dad. And like the whole prior football season, we had traveled around together. I'm always there, and everyone knew me. And like as far as people asking my wife, then I show up, the next football season, pretty much by that time, probably 70 pounds lighter. And everyone's like, did he get cancer? Or, like what's going on with, how did this happen to him? Because they saw me one way, and then the next time they see me, I'm a different way. And the same thing with the nurse. I've had the same doctor since I've lived here for a long time, and she saw me and weighed me in, and she's like, "Is that right for you?" And she was just shocked that had happened. And I think one of the funniest things that happened to me is where I work from my house, and there's a lot of different locations, right? I'm always on the phone. I have a pretty distinctive voice, so people know me on the phone. And like we have Skype at work, and you have your little profile picture, right? That's up in the corner, and everyone knew me as like this fat-faced guy. And I was at work, out on the East Coast, and we're all sitting in a meeting room and waiting for the meeting to start, and everyone's looking around like, "Hey, can we start?" And someone goes, "Oh, we're waiting for Ben." I'm like, "I'm right here." It's like, "Oh my God, I didn't have any idea that was you." So it's funny because you didn't, like, I look back at pictures now and see how much I've changed, especially like my face and that. But I don't know, when I was that heavy, I didn't feel like I looked that fat. But now looking back at me, I was. And it was just, I mean, honestly, when I got to that point that everyone was shocked at how much I lost and all of that, it was really fun, right? Like it's fun. You feel good. Everyone wants to know what you did, how they can do it too. And they're always sort of disappointed that it's like, "Oh, I eat better and I work out and stuff." And they're like, "Oh, I thought," they want it to be something easier than that.
Yeah, it's so true and so unfortunate, but there's no shortcut to this.
No.
So I know you mentioned the MyFitnessPal, and it sounds like you're, from what I read, you're a bit of you're one for the information and tracking, Garmin and Fitbit and Strava and all that kind of stuff. And I think the quote or the comment was you were always trying to beat the day than before. Where do you think that motivation comes from, and maybe what are you looking for when you're looking for that?
I think I've always been a competitive person, even with myself. And I'm the type of person, like, I've done a lot of races now, and almost every single one I do, I'm rarely happy at the end. I'm like, "Oh, I could have done better." But it's not just races. It's like when I bought this house and they accepted the offer, I'm like, "Oh, I could have got them lower because they accepted it." And I always kind of, especially now that I know I can do better and I kind of know the potential that I have, and I'm on social media and I see what other people are doing. And I guess when I started, like, to get competitive and to try to go win a race or get a King of the Mountain on Strava or a course record on Strava, I thought, like, well, why can't I? Why not me? Why can't I do that? And, well, what makes this person so much more special than me? And I'm not saying, like, there's King of the Mountains I can't get and there's races I'm never going to win. But I do have King of the Mountains. I have won races. And, it's all about, I don't feel like there's some cap on what I can do. And I want to see, now that I've waited a long time to do this, right? Like, I wish I knew that I had this athlete in me before when I was younger. I feel like I've wasted a bunch of time, like, being this fat guy. And I just want to see what I can do.
Yeah, I think in that article you talked about, the idea of perceived limitations, and that basically you had these perceived limitations rather that you had put on yourself for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it almost sounds
for
like
sure.
that's
Yeah,
you're exploring those limitations now.
One thing that's funny is, like, when I kind of started this, there was people who kind of shepherded me along the way, or like lit my candle, right? On my fitness, I started on my fitness pal. I was just walking around. I wasn't doing any of this stuff I do now. And they're like, well, why don't you go run? I'm like, I don't know. Why don't I go run? So I started running. I downloaded Couch to 5K. And when I started running, I thought, this is crazy. Like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. I ran for a quarter mile and I was pretty sure I was going to die. I'm like, I can't imagine that people can just go run. And this lady who helped me, she could run a mile in like 7 minutes, and her 5K time was like 23 minutes or something like that. And I remember looking at it on Strava. I'm like, that is so unbelievable that she can run that fast. I'm like, she's like an Olympian. Like, this is crazy. She can go this fast. And so I went out there and I busted my butt. And my goal, not to like beat her to like, cause I looked at her as like, I couldn't believe how athletic she was. And I wanted to be that athletic. So I just started doing it, and I did Couch to 5K, and then I remember the day I beat her mile record and then her 5K record, and I was just like, and then it was still great. She still shepherds me along this journey, right? And she's still a beacon for me. But it's like, you get these, I didn't think I'd ever surpass her. I thought that was impossible. And then when I did, I'm like, well, you know, what, I just want to keep getting to wherever I can get.
That's great. And what do you think, obviously you've become competitive, or the competitiveness has played out, in Ironman and different things. What was it about running? What was it about the physical activity you think that appealed to you?
I think it's that it's hard. I think it's that I know it was doing a lot of good for me. Right? Like, as soon as I started doing it, it was so hard. I got injured a bunch of times, and like my ankle was swelled up, my knees swelled up, my body, because I had been sedentary for so long and so big, my body like tried to reject running, and it would have been so easy to just say, I can't do it. My knees, my whatever, this isn't for me. I'm going to do something else. But I didn't do it. I just kept at it. When I couldn't run, I'd walk, and I'd go out in my braces and whatever, or I'd get on my bike with my ankle brace and ride around. And I liked how I felt after. I always have. I always like that feeling after a workout. I like going down the stairs and having sore legs, and I like knowing that I like gave it really good the day before, right? That I'm improving myself, and I just like seeing the results. I like looking in the mirror and seeing who I am now, and I like looking at my data, and I like going to races now. And like, I was a fat guy who never ran anywhere, and now when I do races, I'm like lining up in the front and finishing in the front, and it's almost unbelievable to me. It's funny, like, if people would have known my journey, if they see me as like I'm this huge guy who looks like, maybe I don't know what people's impression is of me, but if they knew like what I was before, and then now I'm like starting at the front of races, not like the New York Marathon or Boston Marathon or anything, but like the races I run, you start near the front and finish near the front. And I mean, and no matter where you finish, I'm doing that now. I could easily have something happen and I get injured and I can't finish in the front, but I'd still show up and I'd want to do just the best that I can. And if that's finishing in the middle or finishing at the end, I like the feeling of like how I feel after I've done it. I like looking forward to a race and like training for it, having goals. I mean, it's just kind of, I really like it, and I'm really lucky to have a family that supports me in doing that, because it's a lot on them. And, I train around the schedule so I can like spend as much time as I can with my kids and my family. But, certainly they have to be involved with this too. So.
And, speaking of goals, are there any goals either physically or a race or anything that you're working towards at the moment? Things that, as you look forward, you really want to make happen?
Yeah, so my goal now is to get to South Africa. If I do it this year, if it's the year after, it'll be somewhere else. So I really want to get to the 70.3 World Championships for Ironman. So last year I finished my best race. I think I finished is either 17th or 19th in my age group, out of like 250 or whatever. And so if I just get a little better, like top 5 automatically go to Worlds. And if one of the top 5 people doesn't want to go or has already qualified, it rolls down. So you get in the top 7, realistically, you can go. And that's one of the big things right now that, like, the reason, like, right before this, I'm in my basement on my bike, like, doing these crazy hard intervals, and my son comes down and he watches me. He's like, "Oh, that's so many watts, Daddy." And
he knows more about watts. That's hilarious.
Yeah, he doesn't know, right? He just like he sees me. I'm trying so hard, and he wants me to pass everybody on Zwift, and he really gets a charge out of that. So
I can imagine, usually kids say like, my dad can beat up your dad, and I can see your kid going to school and saying, my dad can do more watts than your dad.
yeah, it's pretty funny. They all brag me up a lot. So
and for those who are wondering what watts are, it's the output of power you're putting down on a bicycle pedal.
That's right.
Some people are probably thinking
it's how hard you're pressing down, right?
Yeah. Cool. Well, speaking of kids, and I know you have a family. How has your relationship changed? With your kids and your wife. The ones inside of your house.
So I mean, it's some of it's changed and some of it hasn't. I guess one of the things that has me the most proud is my oldest. He was just telling me from 2 years ago. He's like 5 pounds lighter now, and he's way taller. He's super athletic. He's a really, really good football player. We've run races together. He goes and runs with me. He kind of like, he's seen me go through this change, and you look at pictures of him from a few years ago, and he was, thicker, right? And now he's like athletic. And it's not because of anything I've told him or anything I said he should or shouldn't be doing. It's because he's seen what I've been doing and he's doing it. And he's not doing like triathlon, but he's eating better. Because we all do. And he's exercising, he's going to the gym all the time, and I mean, he's like, I'm so proud of him and what he's done. And like, to know that it kind of comes a little bit from him seeing me go through what I went through I mean, it makes me super proud. And the little ones, they talk about, they're going to be they're going to be an Ironman one day, and my daughter's going to have a pink bike and do Ironman. And so, I mean, we're outside when we're always moving around, right? And like, they go for bike rides with me, and my boys they've all run races, and they like their little medals they get. And it's all been a change for the better for everybody.
Do they have like tri-bars with their training wheels in the back?
Yeah, no, they don't. I should see if I can get that so they can ride Arrow.
What has surprised you about this journey, whether it's, physically, socially, emotionally, or something else? What were you not expecting whenever you first downloaded that MyFitnessPal app?
I had, if you would have told me 3 years ago that I'd be an Ironman and then I'd be doing it competitively, I would have said there's no way. I had tried running once before that, and I was really, really slow. And so I didn't start this journey to do what I'm doing now. That all just was an evolution and a progression from one thing to the next. When I downloaded that app, my only goal was to be in a better place than I was. I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't like how I felt. I didn't like how I felt about myself. I would almost have a panic attack if I saw somebody tag me on a photo on Facebook. I would immediately go untag myself because I hated how I looked. And so my only goal then was to not have a panic attack if someone was tagging me on Facebook. And then it evolved. I did Couch to 5K and I did my first 5K. And then I did that. I did better than I thought. So I did the 10K app, and then I just kept going and I did a half marathon. And then someone told me I should do triathlon. I said, well, that sounds fun. And I saved up and I bought a bike and I got a membership to the gym. And I had heard about Ironman. And the idea of getting to call yourself an Ironman is super appealing. But it seemed so impossible, right? To swim and bike and run that far, 140.6 miles it seemed so impossible. But I knew that I wanted to take steps to get there. And I figured that the best step I could take was in 2016, I wanted to do a half Ironman. So I started looking around and found out you can't just do Ironmans anywhere. They're in very specific spots. And the only one I could reasonably do was in 8 weeks from when I was looking on the computer. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to do that one then. And I signed up for it. I had barely been swimming. I had just bought a bike maybe 6 weeks before. I had no business signing up for a half Ironman, but I did. And I'm glad I did because it was motivation. I printed off the course and I just looked at that every day and knew what I had to do to get there. And I did it, and I didn't do terrible at it. It was really, really hard, which of course it is. And then I kept going, and then I did Ironman this last September.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. If you could have a conversation with somebody who's at the beginning of this journey, who's where you were when you were overweight and was tired of being sick and tired and didn't want to look at their Facebook pictures and cringe, what would you say to that person to, help them in the right direction?
I'd say, listen, there's nothing, you can't change yesterday. That ship has sailed. The only thing you can do is you can make a decision to be better now. And you can't let your past define you. You can't let what you think you can and can't do define you. I'm not saying there's plenty of people with plenty of physical limitations, right? But I would say as much as you can, don't focus on what you can't do. Focus on what you can do and the steps you can take to be better. You don't have to, every day before doesn't have to be a blueprint for what tomorrow looks like. You can change what tomorrow looks like. You just have to decide to.
That's great. And then, similarly, if you could have a conversation with your old self and give some kind words or some encouragement to that person, when you were 90 pounds overweight and struggling, what would that be?
If I could talk to myself then and backtrack a long time, I would say, look at what you can do. Look at all of this stuff you can do. And all you're doing is wasting time. You're wasting your health. And snap out of it. Shape up. Get out there. Plus, it's way more. Listen, it's so much more fun to be outside, to run and feel the wind in your face and the sun on your back, to do a big bike ride and go see, it makes you a part of your community, to know every street because you run them and you bike them and you see people out on the road and they see you. It's a much better life to be living, in my opinion, than to be locked up in your house.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. And what's the best way if people are hearing your story and want to try and connect with you? What's the best way for people to do that?
I guess I'm on Instagram. I post about all of this stuff every day on Instagram. It's iron__Yeti is me on Instagram, and so that would be the best way probably.
Okay, great. Well, Ben, thanks so much for the time. Congratulations. Best of luck at the Ironman World Championships whenever you get in, and I look forward to keeping up with you.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, take care.